Telling people that they're too big to ride is not fat shaming, it's an objective fact. If that person is blatantly too big to be riding and it's very clear, you don't have to put them on a scale to determine that.
But Raleigh, in my case, I've had to, multiple times, and they still don't believe me because I have a medical condition that causes me to hold weight in my abdomen. So people tend to think I abuse my horse and that I'm too heavy. But I even did the math and I'm nowhere near 20%.
This is exactly what I'm saying, you guys. Every single person who wants to dismantle the data supporting the 20% rule literally has done not even a single lick of research.
So Raleigh, what you linked here is the guide to being a farrier and shoeing military horses. And I don't know if you read this whole thing because it goes into like the formation of shoes and the basics of farrier work, the anatomy of the leg. That is the other veterinary stuff that's in here that you seem to quote. But you know, if you keep scrolling, you know what's also in here? I'm going to skip this through a little bit. They also mention that it's completely fine to use rigs, harnesses, lay a horse down, and even hobble them if they will not stand safely to be shod. So while I still couldn't find this magical 1920s cavalry manual, I did find this.
That people are fat shaming. Listen, you're not fat shaming, you're supporting veterinary data by telling people that they need to follow realistic guidelines for animal health and welfare. Here we have one of our most recent studies. This was a pilot study that was conducted in 2019, and this is called The Influence of Rider, Horse Body Weight Ratio, and Rider-Horse Saddle Fit on Equine Gait and Behavior, a pilot study. In this study, they had different sizes of riders, of which the large size rider was over 20% of the horse's body weight. The conclusions and clinical relevance of the study were that large riders can induce temporary lameness and behaviors consistent with musculoskeletal pain. Keep in mind, the large rider was the only rider that was more than 20%. The rider was between 23.6 and 27.5% of the horse's body weight.
You know that pilot study that you referenced? They released their full study. It's actually published in 2021. How to assess the suitability for rider size, height, morphology, and weight in optimal horse welfare and performance, a review. So from here, they even state, however, rider's size cannot be considered in isolation alone. There are many factors to consider. For example, the skill, core strength, balance, and fitness of the rider, the physical well-being of the horse, its fitness and musculoskeletal strength, and its coordination, the duration and intensity of the work, and the terrain and the footing. This is directly quoting all of the studies done by Tevis as well. Although it is suggested that appropriately conditioned Arabian endurance horses are able to carry 20 to 30% of their body weight for 600 kilometers, that's 100 miles by the way, there is currently insufficient knowledge to give a categorical upper rider-horse weight ratio beyond which riding is unacceptable. That last line is a direct relation to the Tevis studies. I highly suggest you read them.
Another one from 2008. This was from Ohio University, and they actually did a study to see how relevant the Cavalry Manual was almost a century later. And what did they find? Oh, guess what? The researchers found that an average adult light riding horse could comfortably carry about 20% of its ideal body weight. This result agrees with the value recommended by the Certified Horsemanship Association and the U.S. Cavalry Manuals of Horse Management that were published in 1920. So case closed.
Not really, because if you actually took that research and continued reading more than the first literal 2 sentences, you'd find it says something very different than how you're interpreting it. In the United States, horse owners commonly use horses for recreational and competitive riding. In recent federal census, the leading use of U.S. horses was for recreation at 47%, which ranges from trail riding to arena work. Farm and ranch work followed at 25%. When asking our equine partners to participate in these activities, we also need to be considerate of their welfare. Horse owners must be aware of how much work is appropriate for their horse. In order to determine this, researchers have studied the ideal weight-carrying capacity of horses. In 2008, Ohio University researchers evaluated the impact of riders and tack weight. They monitored horses' heart rate, breathing rate, rectal temperature, and loin muscle condition when carrying 15, 20, 25, and 35% of their body weight. The researchers found that the average adult light riding horse could comfortably carry about 20% of their ideal body weight. This result agrees with the values of the Certified Horsemanship Association and the U.S. Cavalry manuals. But Raleigh, it doesn't stop there. Keep scrolling. Researchers found that loin width and cannon bone circumference relates to weight carrying capacity. Horses with wider loins and greater cannon bone circumference had much less muscle soreness as the weight load increased. This finding indicates that 20% rule is a good starting point. Another study looks at Arabian endurance horses carrying between 20 and 30% of their body weight. Among these horses, lameness was more common in horses with smaller cannon bones. Compared to the average Arabian horse, Icelandic horses have much more compact and tend to have thicker cannon bones. In addition, Icelandic horses are regularly seen carrying adult riders despite their small stature. To evaluate the effects of this type of work, researchers studied Icelandic horses carrying between 20 and 35% of their body weight and found that these horses also had no muscle soreness after 1 or 2 days of work and were more able to work aerobically with oxygen until they reached a weight load of 23%. Aerobic muscle function allows the horse to use reserve energy and oxygen to contract muscles without fatigue. When oxygen is lacking, the horse must use alternative pathways, which can result in a buildup of lactic acid and muscle soreness. The researchers also found that stride length was decreased as weight load increased. However, the decreased stride length did not affect gait or stride symmetry. When describing a horse that can easily carry weight above 20%, think of a well-balanced horse that has a short, well-muscled back and thick cannon bones. This horse will also have a lower center of gravity compared to horses with long legs and a long, weak back. Overall, riders should be aware of the structural weaknesses in their mounts and make sure that their fitness plans are addressed.
Once again, it all cycles back to the follow-up study and the full study from Dyson. However, rider side cannot be considered in isolation alone. There are many other factors to consider, for example, the skill and core strength, balance and fitness of the rider, physical well-being of the horse, the fitness and musculoskeletal strength and its coordination, the duration and intensity of work, and the terrain and footing. This is another article that came right after the pilot study that Dyson did, but before Dyson published their full study. This is Christensen et al. I'll read to you the simple summary. You can actually do the research yourself. The influence of rider weight on horse welfare, health, and performance is often debated. We measured the effects of increasing the weight of the regular rider by 15 and 25% on horse behavior, gait symmetry, and physiological responses in a standard dressage test. Cortisol levels increased in response to exercise, but we found no effect of the weight treatment, i.e. cortisol levels did not increase when the rider's weight became heavier. Behavior, heart rate, and gait symmetry also did not differ between treatments. We concluded that increasing the weight of the regular rider by 15 and 25% did not result in significant short-term alterations in cortisol, heart rate, behavior, and gait symmetry in horses during low-intensity exercise. Again, stating further studies are required to develop appropriate guidelines for riders' weight. And here it is if you scroll down to the discussion. It explains Dyson et al.'s findings in their pilot study, but then here in the discussion, this study found no effect on behavioral, physiological, and gait symmetry parameters in horses exposed to an acute increase in riders' weight by 15 and 25% of the regular rider's body weight. Interestingly, the rider-horse body weight ratios in our study overlapped with the ratios in Dyson et al. Pretty much all of the research in all of its capacity has basically come to the same conclusion that more studies need to be done. But there are obvious factors that dictate how much a horse can carry: breed, age, conformation, saddle fit, rider fitness, horse's fitness, horse and rider's balance. These factors play a much higher impact in how much the individual horse can carry than the rider's weight alone. 20% rule, in conclusion, is more of a guideline when selecting a suitable horse and rider combination, but it is not law. If you guys follow me on TikTok, you already know I have a pin video going over the Ohio study, and I will be posting that to my YouTube, as well as doing some more deep dives into the other studies. So please comment and let me know which one you want to see next. All right.